Hello, and welcome to my environmental project. My name is Chris Rinaldi, that's me. This is also me, doing the voiceover. So for my video project, I decided to bring my two bestest friends, Cassandra Peterson and Alexander Booth, who love each other very much.
I'm gonna kill you in your sleep.
Along to the Woodland Park Zoo, where we got to see a bunch of the animals from all around the world. And now I'm going to talk to you about how global warming is affecting all of them. So let's get right into it. Okay, so we have our hot chocolate, and now we're going to go to the temperate forest. So first off, we explored the temperate forest, which is basically like the area that we live in here in Washington. So one of the main concerns that we face is precipitation shifts, which could destroy forest habitats. Basically, these shifts could bring severe rain and flooding in some areas and droughts in other areas. The problem with this is that flooding can raise the soil of nutrients and potentially add nutrient overloads or pollutants, which could harm the wildlife. Droughts, on the other hand, can starve out the vegetation around in the area and also lead to things like wildfires. Also, some indirect effects that climate change causes is that species have to adapt to the changing climate, or they're forced to migrate to areas that still maintain ideal conditions, or they die off completely in that region. So certain species will be forced to immigrate because of the new conditions, which can wreak havoc on the species that are already living in that area. So basically, global warming is reducing the diversity in a bunch of places.
Next up, where you finish temperate forest, we're going to tropical rainforest.
Next up, we visited the rainforest area of the zoo. The already warm rainforests are heating up by crazy amounts. The rising temperatures and less rainfall are producing droughts of historical proportions. This is such a big deal because the dense forests and winding rivers are home to 10% of the known species on Earth. All of these animals are in danger of drastic shifts in the makeup of the ecosystem. They are also facing loss of habitat due to forest fires and deforestation.
Wow.
Damage to the Amazon rainforest also damages the health of the rest of the planet. Rainforests like the Amazon contain 90 to 140 billion metric tons of carbon, which helps stabilize local and global climate. So after the rainforest, we took a little lunch break and took some pictures. Next up on our journey, we visited the penguins, which here are going to represent the Arctic. When we think of global warming, the main example that comes to mind are the melting ice caps. The Arctic is in a unique and drastic situation. The Arctic is warming twice as fast compared to the rate of the rest of the world, which will bring rapid change, impacting life on land and at sea. This is already causing intense problems for the thousands of species at home in the Arctic. Mammals such as seals or polar bears depend on the Arctic ice for survival. The burning of fossil fuels, which is the main cause of climate change, is also causing great harm to the marine life. The burning of fossil fuels is making the ocean water more acidic. This harms zooplankton species, which is the base of the Arctic food chain, so it will harm all the other animals down the line. Not to mention the rising sea levels due to the melting ice caps, which is harming it's just harming everyone, okay? Next up, we have mountainy areas, such as the eastern Himalayas. Many glaciers are melting and forming lakes that are prone to bursting and downstream flooding. Also, traditional water springs have dried up, which is limiting the water supply. And finally, warming temperatures and changing humidity have brought insect pests and diseases to areas where they were previously absent. And finally, the next footage I have is from the Australia and Africa areas of the zoo, which we had to rush through because the zoo was closing. But I have notes about the Coral Triangle, which I think is far cooler, so we're going to talk about that. So, the Coral Triangle is a marine area in the western Pacific Ocean. These waters surround the islands of Malaysia, the Philippines, and Papua New Guinea. These ecosystems are being affected by the warming, rising seas, and ocean acidification, which I kind of touched on earlier, but I'll go in more depth. So the widespread coral reef bleaching and sea level rise and seawater acidification, all of these things endanger the marine animals like reef fish and marine turtles. The reef-building corals, which make up this coral triangle, cannot survive if the waters keep warming. Corals rely on the algae living inside them to supply them with food. But algae die if the water gets too hot. The loss of algae leaves coral with this bleached appearance and leads to starvation. Also, ocean waters absorb more carbon dioxide. CO2 alters the ocean's pH balance, which makes it more acidic and toxic to some marine animals. This interferes with shellfish and corals' ability to form hard skeletons. There are 600 different species of reef-building corals alone. With the sea levels rising, it's a big threat to the coastal communities in the Coral Triangle, as well as beach-dependent species such as marine turtles.
Oh, hi there. It's me, from almost a month later, still in the same dumb hat. So at this point of the video, you're probably wondering, oh my gosh, Cece, these problems seem too big. What could I possibly do to help? And I'm glad you asked. The first step to solving any problem is bringing awareness to it. So first things first, you gotta do your research and spread the word about how wildlife is being affected by climate change. And when it comes to global warming, it's undeniable that humans are the ones that contributed to it. So if we have the power to cause climate change, then we have the power to put an end to it. One solution is to reduce your carbon footprint. This can be as easy as driving less or as fun as planting a garden. It may take a little bit of effort, but it's essential for the survival of millions of species all around the world. You can also make donations to organizations that focus on this very thing. For example, at the Woodland Park Zoo, they had a little donation box where you got to vote for which animal you wanted your donation to go to. Pretty cool.
Tree kangaroos need to be saved.
Anyways, that's all I have to say about this. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!